Hey, this is Stephen Amell, and you are listening to Tomorrow's Legends, the podcast. Don't fail your city.
During a trip through time, the Legends were forced to land the Waverider in Blue Valley, Nebraska, where they discovered a young superhero.
Yes.
About to take flight.
That's cool.
Who are you?
I'm Stargirl.
Yes, hello, Star what? We still need a good name for our fan base, guys. I know last week we thought, we might settle on Stargazers, but our good friend and frequent feedbacker Dreamweaver brought to our attention that the name Stargazers kind of comes off a little bit creepy when we're talking about a show that's based on a teenage girl who wears tights. So that, I guess, if we can't have anybody uncomfortable with what we're calling ourselves, so that one's going to have to go out the window. It's just not going to work, so let's keep working on it as a group, come up with some others, everybody get back into the Facebook poll and start putting up some more ideas and see if we can come up with something. Maybe Star in the name doesn't have to be there, but I was really, really struggling to think of something, because unless you're saying Star something, they might not relate it to Stargirl. So.
Right, yeah. I mean, JSA is okay, but, like, it doesn't, like, you know, it just doesn't tie to the title of the show, so it's hard.
It is difficult. So let's keep thinking, guys. I mean, we've got Tomorrow's Legends, our mother show. It was originally based on Legends of Tomorrow, which was great. And, you know, for, what did we have for Superman and Lois? Well, Superfam. So, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's relatable. It's easy. So, anyway, guys, so let's work on that. But at this moment, let's put that aside because somebody turned out the lights, and I'm a little scared of the dark this week. I am your trembling Flash.
And I'm bringing the light of hope, X-Force 11.
And now, here are your hosts, the Scarlet Speedster himself, the Flash, the Maid of Mischief, Harley Quinn, and the Blue Beacon of Hope, X-Force 11.
Hello, Legends.
Gideon will turn on the lights for us, I think. I hope.
That's right. Hopefully.
Awesome stuff, guys. All right, let's get into Chapter 3 of Stargirl Summer School. It is still the theme, and it looks like it's going to be the theme all the way through. So what did you think of this episode, X-Force?
So I gave this one 8 very specific wishes. So I really like the Shade storyline. It has depth, and he is so powerful. I was really apprehensive about the Mike and Thunderbolt storyline, so I'm really happy that it only lasted one episode. I'm happy that they moved Thunderbolt to Jakeem. And, you know, this season is slower, but I'm liking the depth of the character stories. And side note, it would have been nice to see her on screen, but the 80s screen queen Leah Thompson is back directing her second episode of Stargirl.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so she did Shiv Part 1 last season and is back for this one, so...
Well, I think you're being a little too kind with your apprehensiveness about the Thunderbolt story. I'm not going to be so. I'm wearing my yellow suit tonight, guys. I'm only giving this one a 6 times that I groaned during this episode. I'm really concerned right now. I'm having this feeling 3 episodes in that Stargirl has lost its endearing touch. It hasn't been that enjoyable so far to me, and this episode was almost worth turning off. I cannot stand the Mike character. Now, let me put that in a way you guys can grasp. I hate the Mike character. He is the most annoying and untalented actor I've seen in a long while, and he just ruins every scene that he's in. And I'm so, so glad that his stupid nature lost him the pen by the end of this episode, where you're saying you were apprehensive about it. I'm so glad. I'm so glad it was a one and done, and we might not have to deal with that anymore. And we'll talk a bit more about it, but I am so unhappy with it. But on the other side of that, like you said, X-Force, the Shade was really cool. Everything about him oozes creepy vibes, and the actor is amazing. It's just unfortunate that the entire episode was so poorly put together that his part of it couldn't save it. This one, the best way I could describe it is this episode felt like a bad Halloween holiday special than an episode of superhero TV, and I'm so disappointed with it.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying, but I feel like they're leading us down the road of setting him up to be used, in a bad way by our villains in this season. And so I can see that. So, it's honestly, you got to think, I'm wondering if some of this is the writing of Mike being written as Pat's son and basically not having a mom around and some different things going on there that kind of shapes his personality. So I just don't know if some of that is the actor or if some of it is that's the right way they're writing him. I just don't know, but I'm still going to give him a chance. It's not that he wasn't annoying to me. It's just I feel like some of it may be the writing and direction of where they're taking him, and some of it may be, the actor too. So I just don't know.
Yeah, like I can't disagree with you, but I just actors at that age, it's a rare gem to find someone that can carry a scene, that emote emotion and whatever. And this guy just isn't. I just find he's a real. It's grating on my mind to watch him in a scene, and with this whole episode pretty much based on him, it was just really, really tough. It's hard to find a young actor that's good. And it even goes all the way back if you think of Star Wars Episode 1 when they had the little 6-year-old actor playing young Anakin. I hated that kid too. He was awful. But how can you find a 6-year-old to play Anakin Skywalker, the most powerful Jedi of all time? It's really hard to land a good actor. I mean, there's what was the guy who was in AI, the Steven Spielberg, Haley Joel Osment or whatever his name is? Yeah, he's a fantastic child actor. But it's like I said, it's rare. So this guy he just gets on my nerves, and yeah. Anyway, let's get into our talking points for this episode.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice,
which kind of suits that's a good segue clip for Stargirl.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
So we had a JSA flashback at the beginning, and it was really cool with the newspaper images. And again, I looked out for our friend Perry, and to see if I could see a date on those newspapers. No dates on the newspapers, but we do learn that the events of the battle at the start of season 1 was 11 years ago. Okay. So we are in present day because we see the calendar.
Yeah.
And it is 11 years, to now. So we have that set that last battle was 11 years ago. So that would have really put Court as very young. Most of the JSA's kids were really young. You think about it. So they're 15, 15, and you take it, so they're, so.
Yeah, and I was trying to remember, when we watched the premiere of season 1, did it not ever tell us that it was 11 years ago? Because it suddenly jumps forward to present time in season 1. Was there not ever, 11 years ago, boom, and we get thrown into the battle?
Yeah, honestly, I cannot remember, and I didn't get a chance to go back and start that first episode today to see, so I don't know.
Now, what I liked about this flashback scene was the look of the garage that Pat was working in. It just had that JSA secret lair, underground base feel to it.
Yeah.
I thought, this is neat. This looks really, really neat. And I love that Pat had it all decorated for Christmas, too. It was a nice aesthetic that they created.
Yeah, it was the little details. They had the JSA symbol in the elevator. They had that kind of off to the side beside the elevator. They had this locked vault door, over there. I guess assuming there were weapons in there. And so I just really liked, for just such a short scene, that it gives us place and makes it feel real and authentic.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be neat if we get to see more of a flashback and see more of what the JSA headquarters look like. Because I'm assuming that is underneath or below ground from the base that we saw, or the headquarters we saw with the round table when she goes to originally steal all the artifacts that were on pedestals. I'm guessing that's the same place.
Yeah, I don't know, but it could be. It could be that the house was one place and where they had the other one was like an original and they moved stuff over. I'm just not sure. But we see Johnny Thunder come in, and we get some insight into Johnny. He is really down on himself. He tells us that because of Thunderbolt, that he is more powerful than Green Lantern and Flash put together, but he feels like a charity case. And so it gives us some insight into who the wielder of Thunderbolt is before it comes to Mike.
Yeah, this part, there was something about this, and I recognize the actor. I kept looking at him. Who is that actor? Because he looks familiar. He's somebody who's played characters in a lot of stuff. I know you're looking him up right now.
I just got to flip over to the other tab. So
So I'll just keep talking while you're looking. You could feel him that he's feeling like an outcast. He's feeling like, I'm only here because of the Thunderbolt pen. If I didn't have that, you guys would toss me out on the street, kind of thing. So it was, you could kind of feel that he had it. He was dressed like the Riddler, which was kind of funny too. I was like, who is this weirdo?
Yeah, and we'll get into the characters who've wielded the Thunderbolt, before, but that character is kind of a flawed character and a hard character, and the name of the actor is Ethan Embry. And so he was in Empire Records. He's been in Creep Show. He's been in Sneaky Pete. He's been in a lot of different stuff. He's been in some things like that. But that is a kind of a tragic character, and so they are kind of keeping that lore going. And so, but they do have to pull him into the battle because Grundy shows up.
And it's Wildcat that comes and brings the news to him. This was a part of the scene that I didn't think worked so well. The guy playing Wildcat, he looked uncomfortable. That whole sequence was really amateur to me. It felt amateur all around, and I don't know if they had the right actor. Everybody just felt uncomfortable, felt like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is my first gig or something. It was just really weird. Everything was subpar in that scene for me. And then the fact that he comes in and says, hey, the ISA's got Grundy now. We need you. Well, that didn't make sense to me. Thunderbolt is not the counter to Grundy. Our Man is the counter to Grundy, and they have Our Man out there fighting. So I didn't understand the connection I'm trying to make there, because it just didn't seem like those were the counters. Those were, to each other. And then the way Wildcat treats Pat, you've got a family, just you stay behind. So I'm guessing Mikey must have just been born, because if it's 11 years ago, he's got to be really young. We don't even really know how old Mike is compared to Courtney, but that to me was a lame excuse and isn't cool. And Pat, it shows us that Pat was always just thought of as the sidekick that can't actually really help. And Wildcat kind of came out. So I thought that's not cool. I don't like that, and I don't like this character, and I didn't like that scene. I was like, man. Way to ruin a cool setup, showing us the neat underground garage and all that kind of stuff. I was like, dang it.
I think it's a lot about it could have been done better, but it's setting up the character of who can wield Thunderbolt. But it was hard because we love Pat, and it's hard seeing him relegated to the sidekick character, and seeing. We understand that Starman was trying to protect him, but it was, by keeping him down there, but it was still hard. Hard.
Well, I mean, really, until he built the robot, Pat could do nothing. He's just a guy in a striped shirt. Like, unless he knows some good martial arts or something, he's not a lot of help going against superpowered villains, and truthfully, Stripesy is the lamest name in superhero history. It is one of the worst. So it's like, but that's the golden age, right? That's the era. So
yeah. All right, let's get into the section that we both really like, the Richard Swift / the Shade section.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a serious threat. Pat takes him very seriously. We learned that at the end of last episode. But Pat tells us that he saw him kill Dr. Midnight, and then he had this falling out with the ISA. So, I mean, Pat takes him very, very seriously.
Now, I want to ask, did the Shade kill Dr. Midnight? Because he didn't admit to it. He just, Beth was yelling at him about it, and he just says, well, you don't know everything now, do you? And then when they show the clip, all you see is this darkness, those cloud formations that he makes, drag Dr. Midnight away. You don't see him get killed. You just see him get dragged into the darkness. Maybe he's not dead.
I don't know about that. I really don't. But that may be a twist that we see later on in this season. We could, find out that it was really Eclipso that did it, and I just don't know. But, we will see. We will see.
And I did, to collaborate with my idea, I did see an article where, was it Cinema Blend or something, was saying that Stargirl just released a possible story that one of the original members did not die in that first battle. So I was like, ooh, I wonder if they're talking about Dr. Midnight.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
I mean, he could come back. He's going to be really old by now, but he could come back and maybe he helps fix the goggles for Beth. Who knows? I mean, or like you said, the Shade didn't kill him, but Eclipso did get to him eventually. Who knows?
Yeah.
Now, the Shade, it also admits to the team that, the ISA is not leading a lifestyle that he abided by. And that's why he parts ways. He's like, they're reckless. They're full of different ideas than what I have. Mm-hmm. And the sense that I got from him is that he's got this air about him that he's above what they're trying to do. He thinks fighting is useless. I don't need to fight out. That's why he's offering them to sit down at the table, because he doesn't need to fight. He's got this arrogance about him that he's above all of that, and he can beat you or defeat you or whatever without getting into fighting, because he can outwit you, outsmart you. There's just the whole aura about him that he's just above all of that.
Yeah, and that's what makes his character powerful in my mind as a, whether it be a villain or a gray character, that he has, like we said, he's got depth to him, and you want to know more about him, and that it's not just a one-sided thing like Eclipso we know is bad. And so I really like that, seeing him on screen and just seeing how he interacts with people just makes us want to know more, because it's drawing us in. And that's the kind of characters we want to see, is ones where it's just like, okay, they're not a 2D, but they're really in 3D. They're really got some depth, and then they draw you into the story. So that's the ones we want to see. So.
And that's what Stargirl was so good at doing in its first season. We had Icicle, we had Brainwave, and even Cindy. The three of them were a powerhouse trio of villains that you got into their stories. It was amazing how they developed them. And I think part of what's wrong with these first three episodes is it is taking so long to get us anywhere. Even Shade is a little bit slow, because I think by the end of episode 1, we already knew, Icicle's a bad dude, watch out for him. By end of episode 2, whoa, Brainwave, holy, we got two really good villains on our hands. And so it just seems like season 1 really took off running, and this one is really, in the slow lane. And I think that's the difference that's bothering me, because I had such more expectations the way how well they did season 1. So I got to see if they pick it up here.
Yeah, I mean, we got to see about pacing, because I don't know. You can you can get, and maybe that was some of the criticisms of, okay, let's, it's a villain of the week, or we're running through villains too quickly, and how do we make them more, well-rounded? I don't know, and maybe they responded to that, and maybe they went a little too much on the other direction. I just don't know, but we'll get into it, and we'll see. Hopefully, they will continue to just make it so that we don't end up at the end of the season where all of our villains basically are gone. They've been wiped away, and then we got to come up with some new villains so that we've got ongoing ones. And because honestly, Reverse Flash, that's a villain that they slowly set up, and to date, one of the best villains in the Arrowverse.
Yep.
Because we got that depth and we got that slow turns, and then every time we saw him, there was that depth there. So I'm hoping that we get those style of villains, because it's fine to have the ones that just go away, but we need some good solid ones that are going to stick around and come back.
And that's what I had hoped for Icicle. Icicle was up there with Reverse Flash, with Slade Wilson, and I said that all last season. I was so disappointed that they killed him off. That was a villain that I think could last through all seasons of the show and just come back every once in a while. He was so good. But so we'll see what they do here.
All right. So let's get into the Shade's shadow powers, because we start to see them in a very small way as he kind of shadows his way into the storage facility when Barbara is searching around. And all the lights dim down, and major creepy vibes. And I just loved those kind of jump scares, like you said. Well, I'm jumping your points, but I just loved the feel that we got and the uneasiness that it caused Barbara because of how surprising he was of showing up. So I just really enjoyed that short little scene.
Well, like you said, there was a couple good jump scares in there, and the creepy vibes with him, though, because he just kind of shows up. You're like, where did he come from? Because I think the door was on the other end of the room from where he shows up. So, okay, how'd you get in here? I mean, that would spook me. And then as they're walking around, you could see his powers were affecting the lights. It affected her cell phone, and everything. Everything was just kind of, struggling. And then when he really wanted to turn it up, he shut everything down completely, and she screams and goes running. It gives us just a taste of what he can do, because I was wondering from the last 2 weeks, I'm like, I asked you, what can the Shade do, and how can controlling shadows be a real superpower to be concerned with? But now we're seeing like, oh, okay, yeah.
And it was confirmed he was looking for Eclipso, because he finds the box that Eclipso was in and wants to take it.
Yeah.
And Barbara's not too hot on that, so like you said, he just blacks out everything and takes it and and disappears through the shadows.
And they didn't give us an answer as to why he wants Eclipso. So now I'm still wondering, what does he want with him? What is he? And we'll come around to it in your next point here, but it's just like, why is he after it? He was so adamant about getting it, and he's like, I'll just take the empty box. You don't need it. And he got upset when she's like, no, you can't.
I'm really curious about why the box. I mean, yes, it could be a trap or and a power dampener, but like, it seemed like more important than that, and so it's going to be interesting to see where we go. But that's one of our points further down. But so we see him confronted by the JSA, and like you said, he is very inviting. He wants to talk. He offers them tea, but they are there for the confrontation. They're not there for tea.
So I'm wondering here, if they did just sit down to talk like he was begging them to do, would he have just continued to be accommodating and inviting all the way through? I got this feeling that he didn't want to fight at all. He's more sophisticated than that, like I was saying. And I have a feeling like he was just presenting them with, let's just sit down and talk this out. Like, we don't have to fight. And they just came in there with this, nope, we're taking you down kind of confrontational mindset. And that was the part that I didn't like. I did not like the whole plan. The way this whole plan was executed leading up to them sitting down at his table, the whole scene felt so dumb to me. I like, Pat's calling Barb on the phone and telling her everything that they're doing, that like he has to check in with her, that it's okay, he takes the kids out to play, and it felt weird. Like, this is superheroes. What do you got to check in for? That was weird. And then he goes completely unprepared. He's just basically a street civilian with no gadgets, no weapons or anything. It's just Pat. And they're just walking down the street like they're going trick-or-treating, and that's my Halloween holiday special comment. They're just walking down the street like they're going trick-or-treating. It just looks silly. And, I mean, are they following the Legends type of plan here, just forgetting that we're on a superhero show? Because we used to complain about that on Legends, when we don't get any superpowers for like 6 episodes. That whole sequence to me was awful, and that also helped give me such a low rating, because it was so dumb. I didn't like it.
Yeah, I did not like the plan. I did not like... We know how serious he is, and I'm just... I know they're raring to go, and I know you've got to do something, but I mean, it just seemed very poor. I mean, it really did. So I don't know.
Yeah,
that's the 2 points that were dragging me down. Most of those 2 points were this whole plan was just like,
yeah, and they're just walking down the street, kids in costumes, just walking down the street. It was weird. It was weird. Like, this did not feel like a superhero episode to me at all.
Yeah. So we really see his power there at the end, because they're confronting him, and he takes Thunderbolt down and he restrains all of the JSA and just leaves. And you're just like, wow, this dude has got some major power. And that part I really liked, because we've seen hints and little bits and pieces, but this shows just a fuller picture of just how powerful he is.
Finally, something cool. Because I think I already said, I've been wanting to know just how having control over shadows can be threatening. And they showed us just that. And it actually, the way the smoke was moving around the room and grabbing each person, it reminded me of the smoke monster from Lost.
Oh, yeah.
And that was cool. It was shocking. As powerful as it was shocking, and I like that. What I also liked is that the light of the cosmic staff was stronger, though, and it wouldn't let the smoke touch it. Courtney was pinned up against the door, and she couldn't move, so therefore she couldn't let go of the staff. But we saw Swift getting frustrated by the fact that his smoke couldn't touch the staff, because every time it tried, the staff would send a flash of light to where it was being touched, and the smoke had to let go. Very, very cool. So there's the light combating the dark, right?
Yeah. And I think, once again, the real thing that we're going to need to see is we're going to need to see Green Lantern in the shade.
Yeah.
Because Jade is very inexperienced. And so it's going to be an issue that way, that she doesn't have the experience and the skills necessary. But I think that the Green Lantern's light is going to be... The staff is going to be okay, but I think it's going to take her light, the Green Lantern's power, to really take him down a notch or two.
Probably. Now, you mentioned that he took down Thunderbolt. We're going to talk about Thunderbolt coming up, but with everything that we saw leading up to this point, everybody's thinking, oh, Thunderbolt, like, wow, he's a genie. He's this amazing energy being that's got so much power. Well, so much for Thunderbolt, more like Whimperbolt, because all he did was come out of the pen, fly across the table in slow motion, and just gets grabbed. That was it. Like, you completely fizzled out when you're supposed to be this all-powerful being, more powerful than Green Lantern and Starman together, and you fizzle out in your first attack. I'm like, okay, I was completely underwhelmed. Completely. underwhelmed by Thunderbolt, and I was like, okay. And we'll talk more about him, but...
Yeah. So, at the end of the episode, we see the Shade on top of the clock tower, and he's got the box, Eclipso's box, open, and like he's touching the inside. It's like he can somehow see the intent of Eclipso, because he knows that Eclipso is going to kill the kids, the JSA. And I'm like, how can he know that? I mean, is there some tie there? What's going on? But just to see his concern about those kids getting killed just kind of raised questions for me. So that was an interesting little twist there at the end of the episode.
It came off surprising to me as well, that the fact that he sounded concerned that Eclipso was going to kill the kids. So it made me wonder, okay, is his concern because it's just kids and he's not into killing? Maybe he's one of these bad guys who doesn't feel he needs to kill, so is he just concerned that you don't need to end life, or is he concerned that it is kids? Even though they're a pain in his butt, they are just kids and don't deserve to die. Or is there something more to it, that he wants to control Eclipso, or maybe he wants to even destroy it? And now that he sees, like you said, he was picking up on something, is he feeling what Eclipso's intent is? And now he's like, okay, I got to stop him from killing the kids, and I've got to destroy him. Does that mean the Shade is somehow going to be a gray area, what's the word I'm thinking, ally to the JSA somehow?
Yeah, I'm thinking so. In the comics, at least, he has aided the JSA and some of the heroes here and there. And so I think he talks about how he worked with the ISA some because their agendas temporarily aligned. And I think that is going to be the case here, that he and the JSA's agendas are going to temporarily align to take, Eclipso off the board. And so he's going to work with them, but then kind of, maybe in the end make it clear, hey, I'm not a hero. I was just doing this because Eclipso is too evil just to be on the board. So that's where I think we may be going, but we'll see how that permeates the season and how that works out.
Yeah, I hear you for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's move into Thunderbolt and Mike. As much as I don't want to, well, let's talk about it.
So we saw little bits and pieces in Season 1 of Thunderbolt. And in Season 1 and here in Season 2, the Thunderbolt is voiced by comedian Jim Gaffigan. So it's kind of fun getting to see, or actually just hear Jim Gaffigan put his kind of personality into Thunderbolt. And so I enjoy some of his comedy stick and that kind of stuff. So this is a challenge for him of, okay, I'm got to voice act this character, and he's got to start growing in it. Because in Season 1, it was just little bitty pieces. So we're starting to see, a little bit more here in Season 2.
He sounded so familiar. I don't know the name Jim Gaffigan, but his voice sounded familiar. And I was thinking, why do I recognize that voice? But I'm not sure. So, Thunderbolt. Do we like him or do we hate him? I don't know if there's an in-between with this here. He's kind of like the Bebo doll phenomenon to me.
I wouldn't take him that far, but
well,
okay.
I just mean splitting down the middle. Either you like him or you hate him. So, okay, the effects were cool for him, and they're blowing all the budget in this episode on the effects for him because he was on screen for quite a long time. But here's the thing. I wasn't that entertained by him. I didn't find him funny. He came off as the love child of Genie from Aladdin and Ryan Reynolds, who we... think about it. Listen to his voice. Listen to the way he spoke. It was Ryan Reynolds and the Genie combined into one. and it sounded all too much the same as we've heard before and seen before, and I just wasn't having fun with him. I just been there, done that. It's like they couldn't come up with a new type of personality for this kind of character. It's like, well, we know there's a real popular genie. Let's kind of do that, and let's put our own spin on it. But he ended up coming off like a very clean, Deadpool Ryan Reynolds at the same time. I was like, no, it's not working for me. What did you think of him?
Well, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of, like, that particular character, and it's not that I hate him or, like, love him. I'm just kind of in between. But that's the hard thing about this JSA and the JSA villains, the ISA villains, is these are golden age characters. So, yes, there were Aladdin and Genie stories before Disney made it popular.
Yeah.
And so, you've got to think, okay, how do we stay true to what was written in the Golden Age about these characters and yet, bring them into a little more modern age? And that's what they've got to do with the JSA characters and the villains. And so it's a hard balance, because the lore is huge on even Thunderbolt, because there were a couple different characters, genie type characters, that were combined into one. And so it's kind of how do you work that? Like, does Mixelpick,
right?
How does that work in modern age, and how do you balance that out, and how do you make Bizarro? So it's like bringing some of those characters in. Was this the best implementation? Probably not. But it's like one of those things where we have expectations, and we're going to apply modern day expectations on the Golden Age character. So I thought it was kind of in the middle. I mean, I wasn't, I absolutely love this, or absolutely hate it, because, like, once again, it wasn't Bebo level for me. But so it's kind of in between for me. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where it is, and this character attaches himself to is the big point of this episode, because
yes,
Mike is feeling left out. I mean, he was feeling left out last season, but now he is getting bullied. So here's this guy. He just finished 8th grade. He's getting ready to go in high school, and he's already getting bullied and on his paper route. And these guys are honestly awful, because I mean they're bullying him, and then they go bully the Girl Scout. I mean, and here he is. It's all he wants to be is be a part of something. So here he is in this blended family. His adopted sister has found his calling, and he's feeling left out. And I just feel for him, but I just don't think the writers have got a bead on how to write him best yet. So it's hard, because, like, they're making progress, but yet they just don't have him dialed in enough to make us empathize enough with him yet. So it's hard.
I love how kind and gentle you're trying to be with all this, because to me, I get this been there, done that, lonely kid being bullied. I don't really care. His performance is so uninspiring that I don't feel anything for this character at all. Where I agree with you is the actual bullies. Yeah, they're nasty. I mean, okay, pick on Mikey, whatever. You pick on the young kid, that's a few years younger, a couple grades behind you. But the fact that they went and picked on the poor little girl that was like 6 years old trying to sell cookies, and they steal from her, that, I was like, you guys need to be punished. You jerks.
Yeah. So Thunderbolt sees this desperation and attaches himself to Mike and it gets him to say the magic word, basically. and we find out that Thunderbolt is, like we said, a genie that grants wishes. Very specific wishes.
Okay. That was some funny moments there. I will admit to that. In the beginning, when we're meeting Thunderbolt, there was a couple funny moments. That bench height joke.
Oh, yeah. That was...
actually made me laugh out loud. That was funny. But, again, he's a genie, and I just couldn't help but keep thinking, no one can live up to Robin Williams. Not ever. He was the genie of all genies to play that character. Not even Will Smith. In the live-action version of Aladdin, Will Smith was awful. And it's just...
Yeah, I didn't even watch
So
that.
I'm watching this Thunderbolt character, trying to like him, but the more and more I saw him, the worse it got. It just looks like, nah, I can't. But the bench joke, I laughed.
Yeah. So Pat eventually finds out that Thunderbolt is active, and we kind of get this heart-to-heart, this one-on-one talk between Pat and Thunderbolt. And Pat's been so tied up with Courtney and her wanting to be Stargirl and trying to manage the JSA that he's missed that his own son is feeling lonely and excluded. And so he's like, okay, let's move forward. Thunderbolt's attached himself to Mike because of this reason. So let's move forward and say, okay, let's loop you in and let's get specific, and so that we can loop him in. And later on, we do see Pat and Barb talking at the end about Mike's loneliness. And I'm just wondering, okay, they blow it off immediately. And I'm like, this is going to lead to Mike being taken by Eclipso because they realize it and then it just gets forgotten because things get ramped up. And that's, he's treating him so poorly. And so I'm like, this is dangerous.
Yeah, and all that stuff you're talking about, I get you. I am there with you that story-wise, it's good writing, it's good setup, and for Pat, I mean, he, like you said, he's so tied up with Courtney because she's got the staff, and it connects him back to the JSA, and he gets to be involved, and he's basically left his own kid on the back burner or off to the side, on the sidelines, watching, and he's feeling left out. Good writing there, good story, but that involves Pat, and that's, so we love Pat so much, but this is like the one dark spot on him being a dad. It's like, you know what, you're being a great stepdad, but you're sucking as a dad because you don't even realize your own kid is struggling and feeling left out. So we got, and this gives some growth for Pat. This gives us story for him. We got to see him turn that around now. And the fact, I mean, we even saw last season Barb trying to connect with Mikey a little bit because she sees that he's struggling. All of that is fine, but the stuff with Mike, you know what? I'm really feeling Reverse Flash tonight. I'm heartless, like completely heartless, because I don't care. To me, this was ridiculous. Whatever Mike is, 12, 13 years old, he's too young to be a superhero. He's too young to be involved in any of this. So all this whining and crying that he's doing, that he wants to be part of the team, just leave him out of it. I don't like kid characters in a show like this when they're just too young to be part of essentially the adult world, which, I mean, you could argue that Courtney and the rest of the gang they're just on the cusp of being too young themselves, but they've proven themselves, so I'm okay with it. I just have no interest in Mike going forward, of being part of this team or being a hero at all. So no, you're a kid. Get out of here. Go play in the schoolyard, swing on the swing set or something. You're too young for me.
So it's hard because we see in some of the images at the beginning of the episode when Sylvester wasn't Starman, he was Star Spangled Kid, and Pat was older than him by a couple years. And so he's gone through this a couple times, and yeah, it's just hard. I agree. It's just hard. I don't know that they're balancing it well, and I do like the fact that Mike does own up to his mishandling of the issue, and he even wishes Thunderbolt to somebody worthy, and it goes to Jakeem, and we'll get to that later on. But I do like that he is realizing that he may be out of his depth, and and as you said, he's maybe too young. So
yeah, and I'll give him that one little point here. He did own up to it and say, I made a mistake, because he saw what happened and how bad he screwed things up. So I will give that to him, but it was a mistake, and he's kind of caught in it. So is he really? I don't know. It just, he didn't mean for that to happen, but I am glad, like we both said in our opening monologues, I'm glad it did, that this should be the end of Mike getting to be a superhero or part of this team, which, again, I'll agree with you, where the story is good is this is the reason why he's going to be drawn into the dark side for sure, because he will get to be part of something, and they'll find a use for him. So I like that part of the story. Now, with Jakeem, let's jump to here, because the last thing Mike says, I wish you were in better hands. Poof, pen disappears. All right, cool, where's it going to go? I didn't expect for them to show us that it's going to go to someone right away in the last segment there. So what's Jakeem's story? I'll ask you that in a sec after you can tell us all about Jakeem here. But to me, it was neat, because he's obviously an older kid. He looks to be the same age as Courtney and the gang. But it was also a little bit obvious, because we see a lonely nerd playing video games on his computer. Even his family is picking on him. His sister comes in. She starts harassing him. You hear one of his parents yelling in the background. They're harassing him. You're like, oh, here's the kid. And then, of course, he's wearing a pink hoodie. I mean, can you be any more obvious about where the pen's going? But tell us about Jakeem.
So I'm unsure, and maybe we'll get this played out. I'm unsure of how old he is, because we know that he's got a paper route, and he's really responsible, because we hear Mike talk about him, and he was going to take over Mike's route when they were going on vacation. But I kind of feel like maybe he's the year in between Mike and Courtney's group. But I don't know. But, so, they have once again taken Jakeem from the comics, Jakeem Johnny Williams, and kind of tweaked it a little bit. Because in the comics, Jakeem is basically a latchkey kid. His mom is dead. He's orphaned. And he kind of gets drawn into things and gets given the pen by Jay Garrick, without Jay knowing that it's actually Thunderbolt. And so, once again, it's kind of coming to him unexpectedly. And he does step up and joins the JSA along with Stargirl and, Our Man, which is our version of Our Man. And so he does there, but in this midst of there's some battles going on, and once again there were a couple genies that combined down to become this version of Thunderbolt. And so it's very interesting. And so they're taking bits and pieces of the lore and, again, spinning it a little bit. And, yes, that version of Thunderbolt did take on Grundy. And not to the best effects, but there were some stuff there, so...
Interesting. The aspect that I kind of liked about the Thunderbolt thing is that he reveals here that when him and Pat were having that conversation in the loft there, he says, "Why do you think I went to him? You know who I am. I am lonely, and I'm drawn to other, not mentors, but masters that are also lonely and alone." and not your son is feeling alone. That's why I was drawn to him. So that's an interesting aspect to me, that the genie Thunderbolt is trapped in the pen instead of a lamp. He's trapped in the pen, so he leads a very lonely existence himself. So he reaches out. That's what he attaches to. So I thought, okay, that actually, I mean, that part of the story is cool, and it makes, because you get two lonely souls finding each other, and they team up to become a duo, and away they go, and they've made both their lives better. I like that story because it's been done very well in a lot of aspects. If you guys ever saw the movie Seabiscuit, you got a down on his luck horse jockey and a beaten up small little horse that nobody cares about. The two of them come together and they end up winning a ton of races. It's a great story, and that I can pick up on in this. So.
Yeah, and just to give you some insight, so his sister that we saw briefly is Jenny Williams, who was one of Cindy Berman's friends from last season. So he's a younger brother. So it may put him in the same kind of age bracket. But so there is... I didn't recognize it at first, but I was just looking up some of the information, and that is... She was one of Cindy's friends.
One of the Mean Girl group. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
She also, her and Cindy had a bit of a falling out, as we saw last season, right? So
right, okay. Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yep. All right, so we've talked a little bit about Courtney and the JSA, but let's kind of get into a little more of the details. Yeah. So, Courtney and Yolanda talking in the back of class, and I love that, we've seen Courtney pore over these ISA files. It's just very interesting to see her character, and they're talking in the back of class.
Right.
She's showing off her memorization skills, so I like that because she's going to be able to kind of dig in and remember those little facts from the ISA files in battle. But, I mean, they're talking in the back of class, and it's a small class. I mean, come on. There's just a few people in there. Come on now.
That part bothered me, how loud they were talking, because that angry kid, Isaac Bowen, the new fiddler, he could hear everything, and they're talking about superhero stuff. So how much he picked up on and was understanding what he's hearing, I don't know, but... We'll see.
Right. Yeah. So it was very interesting. Yolanda suffered another headache, and we know that she's still dealing with her guilt over killing Brainwave, because she tells Courtney, we're not going to ever do anything like that again. And we see that kind of played out with their plan in this episode. But she's still dealing with that guilt. She's looking for absolution. She's not ready to go to the priest yet. Courtney is not giving it to her, so she talks with Mike about killing Icicle. And so she's looking for somebody to give her that absolution, to say it's okay that you killed Brainwave. And she's just not getting it.
Yeah. At one point, I forgot to say, you mentioned about Courtney memorizing her history and stuff. I think it's cool. Yeah. Like she is. It just showed me that she actually is listening to Pat, and she started reading, started doing her homework. Mm-hmm. And I agree with you. She's got a good brain. She's got a good memory. If she just applies herself, she's a smart kid. So we will see if that comes around somewhere, like you said, with her reading the files and everything. Maybe she'll know the bad guy's weaknesses when no one else can beat them. We'll see. But bring it forward now. Again, can Mike really help at all? He's a 12-year-old kid. What are you going to him for advice for? But what is going on in her head with those headaches? Because, is it Brainwave leaving some kind of imprint of his power? Was that some type of, because as he's dying, can he, use his ability to leave a lasting hurtful effect on her brain, knowing that she's going to suffer after he dies? I'm wondering if that's what this is.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's maybe that and Eclipso sensing that weakness and latching onto it as well. So it may be a combination of both. And that's, they're playing little bits and pieces in every episode. So we're going to see where this is going. But, it's going to be interesting to see what it really works out to be, because I'm intrigued, because we're getting to see, like I said, little bits and pieces in every episode of her guilt and the effects and what is causing it, other than, we know PTSD, but this seems like a little bit more than just PTSD.
It does.
So Beth finds out that it was the Shade that killed Dr. Midnight, and she is just gung-ho to take him out. And so she is like, okay, we've got to go stop him. We've got to avenge Chuck. And it's all because she's lost this connection that she had with Chuck. She's frustrated she can't fix him. She had this person that she could debrief and talk with, and she doesn't have that anymore. And so you see that frustration and that anger of her lashing out at the Shade. But I really, really loved the end of the episode where she's just so down. And Rick is there and says, listen, I can listen like Chuck. And she finally opens up to somebody about her parents' divorce. So I'm really glad that the two of them, who are having hard home lives, are opening up to each other and connecting with each other. And so I really like that little moment.
I'll be with you on that one too. I think that was a nice friend moment, because if you think about it, all over the course of all the first season and up to now, nobody on the team has actually reached Beth, or even tried to reach to Beth, and be her friend. They've all just really used her for her tech know-how. They haven't really actually said, "Hey Beth, are you okay? What's going on?" So the fact that Rick is the one that does that, when we think Rick's always been kind of a bit of a jerk himself, that was a cool moment. And the fact that they actually have a similar enough family background that they should be able to connect on all of this. So that it was cool.
I liked it, and I'm glad that she's moving beyond the hanger-on that she started off last season of, I've got the goggles and I'm smart enough, and so I'm liking a little more development there, so that's good.
Yeah.
And closing out this section is, I like the teamwork scene of them working on the whiteboard to work on the wish to find the Shade. And I looked on Twitter, and Beck was really saying that scene was really a lot of improv, that the director just let them go and filmed, and then the editors kind of took bits and pieces and put it together, so that he just let them run with it. And then the editor kind of worked out the little scenes that they showed.
Cool. I mean, it was fun, but really it seemed way overboard to simply ask where to locate the Shade. I'm sure they could have shrunken it down quite a bit, because can you imagine running, and this is going to lead into my next point, but if you had to say that in any type of time limit, no, I'm sure they could have worded it in a certain way to be much more specific than that. But this leads me to my next point, is how much use is the wish power if you really think about it? What can you get out of it? We all think, I wish I'd be a millionaire, I wish I could do the whatever. But all a villain has to do is gag the bearer of the pen or shut them up somehow, and they're out of the fight. That's it. If you can't speak, you're done. Mm-hmm. Plus, this is what ruins it for me with this Thunderbolt character. If you have to be that specific every time to get a wish right, and it takes that much time to get the wish out, then it kind of makes him useless anyway. Especially within a fight when all hell is breaking loose, and if your wishes never go the way you want, then what's the point of even bringing him to the fight? It kind of just nullifies Thunderbolt altogether for me, and that's why I just didn't enjoy him. That's another reason why I was like, he's useless, really. Because you can't run into a fight when all hell's breaking loose, people are dying, people are getting hurt, and you got to rhyme off this 5-minute long wish just to make sure you get it right. It's silly. I just can't.
Yeah. Yeah, they're They're tricky. They are tricky. So, yeah. So.
Well, is that all we got for the episode? Move into our favorite scenes?
Yes.
All right.
Shape out and eagle!
Now, mine comes really early in the episode. It's like 4 minutes in, but this made me laugh. The episode opened all right, and I was enjoying it until things continued on. But I loved in the kitchen when they're all talking about the ISA and the superhero stuff, and Barbara's ideas to improve Stripe and to get him into the battle better. That made me laugh. I enjoyed that. So here it is.
The Shade has no idea who he's up against.
First of all, he's obviously very dangerous. So I think you should definitely bring Stripe.
Mom, we need the element of surprise. Stripe's as subtle as a tank.
Doesn't he have like a silent mode?
It's a good idea.
Silent mode? Seriously?
Or, I don't know, invisibility?
A silent mode. I love that. And Pat's like, yeah, that's a good idea.
So my scene was there at the end of the episode, and it was the kind of the family meeting there at the end. So let's take a listen.
Okay. I know I should have listened, but
You didn't.
I didn't either in the beginning.
Courtney.
This is the beginning for Mike, Mom. With the Thunderbolt. Even if Mike hadn't shown up, the Shade was way ahead of us. You saw Pat.
No. No, I screwed up. Thought this pen was my ticket into the JSA, but now I kind of just wish it was in better hands. Thunderbolt?
Yeah, it's a short scene, but I like that Court was standing up for Mike. I like that he owns up to things, and I like, once again, we're getting some family communication here. Not quite up to the level that we've got it over on Superman and Lois, but again, last season I liked the marriage dynamic between Pat and Barbara, and the family dynamic, and I just want to see more of it. So I like this little bitty portion of it. So
yeah, it's fine. I mean, we talked about it in the regular part of the show already that he does own up to it. But Courtney standing up for him, it's cool that stepbrother, stepsister, you're kind of having this bonding between the two of you, but at the same time, it's like, shut up, Courtney. Like again, you're thinking you know better and you don't.
But thinking about last episode when Pat had to drill into her head that her superpower was finding the good in others.
Yeah.
And so she's owning that into her brother after he came and talked to her. So, I like that we're seeing some progress of her character. So, yeah, it's...
You got a point.
Yeah, Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So.
You got a point. I just had trouble with this episode, and
I know. So we traded places from where we were on Monday. So I'm trying to make you see some of the good points, and you're stating your case, and so balancing each other out.
That is right. And speaking of balance, we're gonna play our Patreon support clip because we got to balance the books too.
If you'd like to support our podcast, you can do so at our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/tomorrowslegends.
It's feedback, your time to speak up. Believe it or not, what you think and you say means a lot to us. But why should we sit here and wait if you won't hurry up? So feedback or simply shut up.
X-Force is conducting the music. So we got emails this week, and the first one is from Comic Geek Kev, and he says, "Hey, Legends. So everything about that opening scene from the past just completely didn't work for me. The writing, all the performances, the wig on Johnny, even Wildcat's costume, everything was off. But seeing Johnny Thunder right away made it apparent we'd be seeing the Thunderbolt finally. And we did. First, I think he looks pretty cool. Maybe not so cool. And not sure why the magic word was changed from Seiyu. There is a history in the comics of this, but it's for a different character or a combination of this and another character. I like the personality and performance of the Thunderbolt as well, but as with Jade, I'm guessing the cost will prohibit him being a regular part of the team, so I doubt we will see Jakeem and the Bolt every episode. I'd like to see Mike and Barbara stay depowered. Not every character on the show has to be super. I so agree. I was a little surprised to see Thunderbolt go up against Shade so soon and so easily get his electric pink butt handed to him. But as far as moving the story and the pen along, I get it. At least the staff seemed to hold its own against him. I would have thought Pat would have had a better plan. Yeah, you're feeling what we're feeling. Is it possible Shade is there to help with Eclipso? It seems that way, but we often see double crosses in these shows, so I'm not betting on it. He may help, but in the end he'll turn, possibly even be taken over by Eclipso. Maybe that's when we see Grundy save the day.
Oh, wow.
Not a whole lot of action this week aside from Shady Dinner, but not every episode can be a brawl fest. Sometimes you just have to move the story along. I give this episode 8 out of 10 single-player game high scores. Until next time, Comic Geek Kev. Yeah, but we haven't had hardly any action for 3 episodes in a row now. We had one decent fight with Courtney and Jade, and that was kind of it. So, anyway, good email, though.
Next up, we've got an email from Dad L. Dad L says, "Hello, Stargazers. And yes, I think that should be the fan base name because that's the one I came up with."
Oh, so sorry, Dad L.
Sorry, Dad L.
Yeah, keep coming up with something. I mean, we don't want any fans feeling uncomfortable. So,
yeah. Dad L is back with you in Blue Valley and excited for this season of Stargirl.
Cool.
I must say that Icicle was a great villain, but I'm even more excited for Eclipso and the Shade. Both are very powerful, and Eclipso is just plain evil, and the Shade is mysterious. The effects for Thunderbolt looked phenomenal. I don't know how this show can afford this and Green Lantern effects.
That's why the kids were walking down the street. That's
yeah. Poor Mike. I don't find him annoying, but instead I feel for the guy. He's surrounded by teenage heroes. What kid wouldn't want to be a part of that? I'm worried that he will take the quick and easy path to the dark side, at least for a little while.
Yep.
I give this one 8 Thunder Mikes. Oh! I'm sure the Flash will appreciate that rating. Dad L, last father of Krypton. Hey, I appreciate it too. Thundercats fan here.
Dad L, I give your rating a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
I mean, you must know me. Maybe you listen to Cybercast or something, because that's my opening intro is the Thundercat theme. But I love it. I love that. Hey, everyone's allowed. You and me are completely opposite this week, Dad L, but that's okay. Your rating made up for it. All right, and the last up, we got an email in from Perry White. And he says, "Hey, Flash and X-Force 11, if you remember my most recent Legends of Tomorrow feedback, you'll recall that going into that Bishop-centric episode, I had terrible expectations, but I was wholly shocked at how good the episode turned out to be." Yes, we do remember that. I had similar low expectations going into this Mike-centric episode, and at least for the Mike stuff, there was no shock. It was bad. I remember last season I thought that the writers were treating the character of Mike so poorly because they were setting him up for this incredible arc that we'd appreciate by the end of the season, That did not happen. Now, here we are in season 2, and I still want to think that the writers will take Mike on a journey that we won't fully appreciate until the end.
Wow.
But I gotta tell you, I just think the writers hate this character. There really isn't anything incredibly interesting or redeeming about this character. In most instances, when a character is bumbling, think Gary from Legends, or has streaks of being incompetent, again, think Gary, writers still find a way for them to be interesting and endearing.
Uh-oh.
Mike is just annoying, and I wholly blame the writers. Ugh. He's feeling what I'm feeling. So, let's talk about what I liked. I absolutely love Jonathan Cake's take on Shade. He is this season's breakout character, and the more we get out of him, the better. I do wish we had Brainwave or Icicle around so that all three could bounce off each other, but I digress. Stray observations, it still doesn't always sit well with me that Pat is going around fighting serious crime with a bunch of teenagers. Sure, some of them have powers and abilities, but they're still freaking kids. In the same way that I question Batman for having teenage Robins, and the same way I question Tony Stark for bringing a teenage Peter Parker into the Avengers world. It'll always be a problem for me sending teenagers into life and death situations. I'm also feeling your vibe there. I disagree with Spider-Man, though. I mean, he can lift 10 tons, so I think he can handle himself. I love the tone, color, and fun of the show, but every time I watch the JSA in their costumes, it looks like really bad cosplay. Their costumes are comic accurate, and that's cool, but Beth and Rick look really clunky. And Beth's helmet face shield is ill-fitting. They need a Cisco upgrade. And I agree with them there, too, and that's where my Halloween costume comment comes in. They just like, Stargirl is the only one that actually looks cool. Well, and Black Cat or Wildcat looks cool, too. The two of them are good, but there are other ones, they're goofy looking. You're right. They should update, especially Our Man. Update him so he looks cool. I'm looking forward to next week. Looks like the Sportsmaster and Tigress are back, which should kick-start our Artemis arc. I've always loved that character, especially on Young Justice. I hope the show can do that character just as well. Yeah, I think we both agree with you on that one.
Oh, yeah.
I posted in the Facebook chat that these episodes should have some awesome teen movie-inspired titles. So for this episode, I'll call it Stargirl Chapter 3, All the Wrong Moves, by Mike. I love it. That's based on the Tom Cruise movie, All the Right Moves. Fantastic. Come up with more. So you know what, Perry? You just started a trend. Rename Chapter 1, rename Chapter 2, and then continue going forward now every week, all right? I want to hear it, because that's hilarious. See you guys next time. This has been Perry White, writing another summer school report. I'm out.
Thanks, Perry.
For everybody out there, let everyone know we're talking Stargirl. I mean, we got another 12 episodes to go or whatever of Stargirl, so let everybody know we're covering it so we can get in more feedback for this one as well. Yeah. And this is how you do that.
If you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to tomorrowslegendspodcast@gmail.com. You can also reach us on Twitter @tomorrowslegends. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/tomorrowslegends and become part of the community.
All right, so there was something that I forgot to put in our news section. We actually have some kind of fun news, but The Flash, the TV show The Flash, has announced that they're going to kick off their new season with a big gathering of characters, and they're calling in Batwoman and who else was on there?
Black Lightning,
but the one that I'm excited about is Brandon Routh is reprising his Adam character, and he'll be back on The Flash, and that's exciting.
Yeah, they've got heroes from all of the shows, and it's going to be really cool to see what they do with that crossover there at the beginning. So I'm excited.
Yeah. I'm excited too. So I'm guessing with the COVID protocols being lifted a bit, they're like, okay, you know what? We can actually get somewhat of a crossover going. And I mean, it's not a massive all TV show one. It's just they're bringing in some characters that, you know, aren't maybe working right now. So it's cool. I'm happy. Yeah, it'll be great. Anyway, that's all we got, guys. Everybody have a good rest of their week and a good weekend. We will be seeing Legends on Sunday, and we'll talk to you guys Monday. This is The Flash signing off.
This is X-Force 11. So say we all.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network.